Hey there, I'm Isadora. I'm 32, thriving in my marketing career while juggling life as a mom to my incredible 5-year-old Ethan. Life's great, except for one glaring problem, my monster-in-law, Linda. But we'll get to her in a minute. First, let me tell you about Ethan. He's the sweetest little guy, but he has a severe egg allergy. We're talking full-on anaphylaxis if he even comes near an egg. It's terrifying, but we've learned to manage. Honey, did you pack Ethan's EpiPen? I called out to my husband, Mark, as we got ready to head over to his parents' house for dinner. Yep, got it right here, he said, patting his pocket. I let out a relieved sigh. Good, you know how your mom is. And oh, do I know how Linda is. From the moment I married Mark, she's had something to say about everything. My cooking, my parenting, even the way I breathe. It's like living with a personal critic on full blast. When we pulled up to their house, there she was, standing on the porch with that fake smile plastered on her face. There's my baby boy, she cooed, completely ignoring me as she scooped Ethan up. Hi, Linda, I forced out with a smile. Thanks for having us over. She barely looked at me. Of course, dear, Karen's already inside. Great, Karen, my sister-in-law and Linda's perfect clone. Exactly what I needed. As we sat down for dinner, I noticed the bowl of egg salad sitting suspiciously close to Ethan's plate. Linda, could you move that, please? You know about Ethan's allergy, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes. Oh, Isadora, don't be so dramatic. A little egg never hurt anyone. My blood was boiling. It could literally kill him, Linda. This isn't a joke. She scoffed. Back in my day, we didn't have all these fancy allergies. I looked to Mark for backup, but as usual, he was suddenly fascinated by his mashed potatoes. Karen chimed in. Mom's right, Isadora. You're being overprotective. I was on the verge of snapping when my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Samantha. Hang in there, girl. Don't let the witches get you down. The rest of the dinner was tense. Linda kept throwing passive-aggressive jabs at my parenting, while Karen nodded along like her little sidekick. As we were leaving, Linda cornered me. You know, dear, if he spent less time working and more time with Ethan, maybe he wouldn't have all these issues. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Thanks for dinner, Linda. We'll see ourselves out. In the car, I finally let it out. Can you believe her? She could have killed Ethan. Mark sighed. You know how Mom is. She didn't mean any harm. And there it was, Mark, once again, refusing to stand up to his mother. As we drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were only going to get worse. And boy, was I right. A few weeks later, Linda called me out of the blue, all sweet and innocent. Isadora, dear, I heard about your big conference. Why don't you let me watch Ethan for the weekend? I hesitated. I don't know, Linda. Ethan's allergy. Oh, nonsense. I raised 2 children. I can handle 1 grandchild for the weekend. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The morning we left, I went over everything with Linda. Again, remember, no eggs. Not even a trace. Here's his EpiPen, and… Yes, she waved me off. Go on, you'll be late. The conference was going amazingly well. I was on fire, networking, nailing presentations, even catching the eye of the VP. Great work, Isadora, he said. Keep this up and a promotion's in your future. I was on cloud 9 until my phone rang. It was Linda, her voice frantic. Isadora, it's Ethan. We're at the hospital. He had some kind of reaction. My heart stopped. What happened? What did you give him? Just come quickly, she said, her voice shaky. Mark and I rushed to the hospital. My heart was pounding, fear choking me. We burst into the ER to find Ethan hooked up to machines, his little face swollen and pale. My baby, I cried, rushing to his side. The doctor came over. He had a severe anaphylactic reaction. If he hadn't been brought here when he was, it could have been much worse. I turned to Linda, shaking with rage. What did you give him? She looked sheepish. Just a little custard. I didn't think Custard had eggs, Linda mumbled, her voice defensive. You could have killed him. I've told you 1,000 times. I was shaking with anger. Linda, still mumbling, said, I didn't know it was that serious. I saw red. I told you. I've always told you. Mark put his hand on my shoulder, his voice soft. Isadora, calm down. Mom didn't mean. I shrugged him off. eyes blazing. Don't you dare defend her, Mark. Look at our son. As Ethan recovered, my anger only grew. How could she be so careless, so selfish? Back at home, I couldn't hold it in any longer. You need to apologize, Linda. You have to understand how serious this is. She scoffed. Apologize? I was trying to treat my grandson. You're the one who's made him so sensitive with all your coddling. I couldn't believe it. Get out. Get out of my house. As she stormed out, Karen called, her voice sharp. How could you kick Mom out? She feels terrible. Terrible? I fumed. She nearly killed Ethan and won't even apologize. You're overreacting, Isadora. You're tearing this family apart. I hung up, shaking with fury. Later that night, I tried talking to Mark again. Your mother crossed a line, Mark. She needs to take responsibility. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Can't we just move past this? You know how Mom is. I stared at him, disbelief flooding me. Move past it? She endangered our son's life. She made a mistake. We all make mistakes. I couldn't hold back anymore. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk, Mark. This is unforgivable. Lying in bed that night, watching Ethan sleep peacefully, I knew something had to change. I couldn't trust Linda, and I couldn't rely on Mark to stand up to her. For the first time in our marriage, I felt truly alone. But one thing was crystal clear. I would do whatever it took to protect my son, even if it meant going to war with my own family. The next day, I had a gut feeling that the Custard incident wasn't a one-time thing. Call it mother's intuition, but something felt off. So I started digging. The first place I looked was Linda's social media. And boy, did I find a goldmine. Can you believe this? I showed Samantha a post Linda had made shortly after Ethan's hospital visit. Back in my day, we didn't have all these made-up allergies. Kids today are too soft. Samantha's jaw dropped. That witch. What else did you find? I scrolled through more posts, shaking my head. Look at this. She's been sharing articles about how allergies aren't real, saying it's all in people's heads. Samantha's eyes widened. Isadora, this is serious. She's not just ignorant, she's actively dangerous. That was just the tip of the iceberg. I started piecing things together, remembering all the times Ethan had mild reactions after visiting Linda, even though I checked everything he ate. It suddenly made sense. I confronted Mark about it. Has your mother been feeding Ethan things with eggs when we're not around? He shifted uncomfortably. I don't think so. Maybe, Mark, this is our son's life we're talking about. I couldn't let it slide any longer. I drove straight to Linda's house, my blood boiling. Linda, we need to talk. Have you been giving Ethan food with eggs? She had the audacity to look offended. What kind of question is that? I would never intentionally harm my grandson. Intentionally? So you have been giving him egg products. Well, maybe a little here and there to help build up his tolerance. Toughen him up. I saw red. Build up his tolerance? You could have killed him. Oh, don't be so hysterical, Isadora. In my day. This isn't your day, Linda. This is now. And Ethan has a life-threatening condition. She waved me off, clearly dismissive. You're overreacting. Then she turned to Mark. Mark, tell her she's overreacting. For once, Mark stood firm. No, Mom. Isadora's right. What you did was dangerous and wrong. Linda's face hardened, her voice icy. I see. So you're choosing her over your own mother? I'm choosing my son, Mom. And if you can't respect that, maybe we need some space. As we left, I felt a mix of pride and sadness. Mark had finally stood up to his mother, but at what cost? Later that night, I met with Samantha to strategize. We need to expose her, I said. People need to know how dangerous she is. Samantha nodded. What if we caught her admitting it on record? And that's how Operation Gotcha was born. The next time Linda came over, I had my phone recording in my pocket. Linda, I began. I need you to understand how serious Ethan's allergy is. Oh, Isadora, not this again, she sighed. Look, I don't believe in all this allergy nonsense. A little egg never hurt anyone. But Ethan ended up in the hospital because you've made him weak, Linda continued, her voice cold and firm. If you just let me give him small amounts, he'd have built up a tolerance by now. Bingo. I had her on record, admitting everything. As I played the recording back later, A wave of vindication and disgust washed over me. How could someone be so reckless, so dismissive about their own grandson's life? The annual family barbecue was just around the corner, and everyone would be there. It would be the perfect moment to expose Linda for who she truly was. As the day approached, I was a storm of emotions: nervousness, anger, and even a twinge of guilt. But then I'd look at Ethan, remembering his fragile little body in that hospital bed, and my resolve would harden. Linda had no idea what was coming. The barbecue was in full swing when I finally made my move. Clearing my throat, I called out, "Everyone, I have something you need to hear." With trembling hands, I pressed play. Linda's voice, dripping with contempt, echoed across the yard as she admitted to disbelieving Ethan's allergy and feeding him eggs to toughen him up. Gasps spread through the crowd. Aunt Martha dropped her drink, and Uncle Joe's burger slipped from his hand, hitting the ground. "That's out of context," Linda screeched, her face turning bright red. Karen, always quick to defend her mother, jumped in. "Mom would never hurt Ethan. Isadora must have doctored this." "Doctored it?" I shot back, voice shaking with anger. "Your mother nearly killed my son, twice." Mark stepped forward, his face grim. "It's true, Mom. How could you?" Linda's eyes darted around, searching for support but finding none. I was just trying to help. These modern allergies. Enough. I cut her off. There's no excuse for risking a child's life. Linda's face crumpled as the gravity of her actions finally hit her. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never meant." "Save it," I spat. "Your sorry doesn't fix anything." Mark nodded in agreement, his voice steady. "Mom, we can't have you in our lives anymore. We're done." The crowd gasped again. But what shocked everyone even more was when Linda's best friend, Marge, stepped forward. "I can't stay quiet anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "This isn't the first time Linda's done something like this." Marge then proceeded to expose years of Linda's manipulative behavior. Lies, backstabbing, the works. The barbecue erupted into chaos as Linda fled in tears, with Karen chasing after her. In the weeks that followed, Linda's reputation took a nosedive. She became a pariah, shunned from her book clubs, bridge games, and even church. Her social circle crumbled, and for once, she had no one left to manipulate. That night, as I tucked Ethan into bed, he looked up at me with those innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Grandma Linda visit anymore?" I chose my words carefully. Sometimes, sweetie, people make choices that aren't safe for us. And when that happens, we have to protect ourselves, even if it means keeping some distance. He nodded, understanding in that wise way only children can. I kissed his forehead and closed his door, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in ages. We'd been through hell, but we came out stronger. Linda was out of our lives, and we were safe. For the first time in a long time, the future looked bright, and I knew I could protect my family from anything. And that wraps up Isadora's intense family drama. Now, here's a question for you. If you were in Isadora's shoes, would you have completely cut Linda out of your life? Or would you have given her another chance to make amends? When does protecting your child trump all family ties? Or should family always get a shot at redemption? This isn't an easy one, folks. There's a fine line between forgiveness and putting your child at risk. Where do you draw that line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear where you stand on this family feud. If this story of allergy drama and mother-in-law mayhem kept you hooked, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel.